I think there's some decent news about Algorand. Not too long ago, the Algorand Foundation made a post on X and it said that over 1 million chess players now have Algorand wallets. Now, what is this really about? I'm actually talking about actual chess, like, the board game with the bishop, the knight, the king, the queen. I'm talking about that. And I think this is pretty cool because, again, over 1 million chess players. Now, what specifically is this even about? It's about World Chess unveiling the tower. Now, we have to take a look at World Chess. They have, again, something called the tower, and it's a points and progression system basically that records all player progress on Algorand. So I find that very impressive. If we take a look at, for instance, over 1 million players, that brings a lot of attention when it comes to Algorand. Some people out there that may not necessarily know what Algorand is or even heard about it, through something like this could be good, which I think why I would consider decent. It's not that it's the best news or the worst news either. I do like this. And again, it could even be over 1 million checker players, or let's say over a million, let's say Monopoly players, whatever the case may be. If there's over a million players, again, basically having that type of news regarding Algorand, that's something that I like to hear about. And if we take a look at Algorand, I don't think it's such a bad blockchain either. People like to say, oh, it's kind of bad and all this. I disagree with that because the most notable comparison when it comes to Algorand is arguably Avalanche, and it's not like Avalanche is that much better than Algorand anyways. It's just basically kind of the same. Even I would argue maybe Algorand has more bells and whistles to it, which I'm going to explain why real soon, and that is why hypothetically $5 when it comes to Algorand's native token, that would not surprise me whatsoever, even though nothing I say is financial advice. For instance, if we take a look at Algorand, why don't I think that it really loses out to something like Avalanche? It's because, for instance, Algorand shares an aspect that is actually present in both Ripple and Stellar, which is kind of crazy to think about, but arguably I think that is the case. Like, for instance, Algorand has an aspect of ISO 20022, and if someone's a fan of Ripple or Stellar, or they just know about those projects, I think they'll kind of know that that is something that is really kind of brought up to a high regard when it comes to Ripple and Stellar. But then sometimes people ignore the fact that arguably Algorand has that aspect as well of, again, ISO 20022. Usually this is kind of reserved for projects that are more so focused on global trade and finance, the payments market, but it's kind of interesting to see that when it comes to something like Algorand. Like, for instance, why is this so amazing? It's because ISO 20022 that is currently being used by many financial institutions from all around the world for something called inter-organizational data exchange. So that's massive right there. I get it, Avalanche has a very good decentralized finance ecosystem, which I would arguably say is better than Algorand's because we take a look at, for instance, Trader Joe when it comes to Avalanche, when it comes to the DeFi aspect of it. We take a look at also something like Pangolin, a very kind of popular decentralized exchange for those who are more so into that Avalanche ecosystem. So it may lose out when it comes to that, when it comes to Algorand, but it kind of makes up for it maybe in another aspect of ISO 20022. So this is why I don't think something like Algorand is that bad compared to Avalanche. And Algorand actually allegedly is carbon neutral, and it's allegedly the technology of choice for over 2,000 global organizations. So I think maybe in the grand scheme of things, Algorand may have more bells and whistles than something like Avalanche in terms of the fundamentals. I'm still bullish on Avalanche, by the way. I think it's a very amazing layer one blockchain, but I think sometimes Algorand doesn't gain that recognition, so I just wanted to talk about why I don't think it's actually that bad and why I'm a fan of something like Algorand. If we explore maybe the idea in a make-believe scenario, in which case maybe Algo were to go to the price of $5, at that point, that would be around a 19x from here, which I get it. Some people may be thinking, oh, take a look at this altcoin. That's a microcap. Take a look at what that could do. Well, I get it. Algorand's native token called Algo, I don't think is going to be the best performing thing out there if we ever do see a fully fledged type of altcoin season, especially from right now. I'm totally aware of that. But when I say that, some people may be thinking, whoa, why would you even believe in this if you think that is the case? Well, it's because I don't want to take my chances on a microcap, but then at the same time, I don't really want to go all in to Bitcoin or Ethereum right now anyways. So then in the grand scheme of things, what's something that's a little bit in between, where the market cap is kind of not that massive, not that small either, with a proven community, with good exchange listings and good fundamentals? Arguably, Algo does fit that criteria for me. I'm not saying on anyone's behalf, by the way. However, if I was looking for a microcap, then I would not even believe in algo to begin with. I would not even care about Algorand. But then I'm not looking for microcaps, so that's a different case. Also, I don't want to focus on Bitcoin or Ethereum right now because let's imagine maybe Bitcoin went to 300 grand, less than a 3x from here. Ethereum 10 grand, that's less than a 3x from here. In both instances, if someone said algo, Bitcoin, or Ethereum, I would have to say algo for me. This is just my mindset though, I'm not saying on anyone's behalf. Even if algo just maybe went to the price of $2.50, which is around, give or take, 10x, I would still, even at $2.50 when it comes to algo, still prefer that over Bitcoin and Ethereum. I am just not a fan of maybe around a 3x or less than that. This is not my mentality. Now, granted, I don't really care about a microcap either, but maybe the idea of like, let's say 8, 9, 10x, maybe 19x, 20x, that is something that I'm more a fan of than something like less than a 3x, but then at the same time, I don't want to take my chances on a microcap either. So this is, again, the criteria that I'm focusing on. Algorand hasn't had the best attention as of late, and I think it's kind of no stranger to other layer 1 blockchains, excluding like Solana or Ethereum, because also BNB chain, but I'm saying it's because I think that they haven't really went mainstream yet, but we've seen time and time again, like how usually these type of projects that have a good community, good exchange listings, and decent fundamentals, we've seen how in some cases how they perform during a fully fledged type of altcoin season. So I think Algorand not really having that massive attention right now, it's no stranger to a lot of its competitors, and it's just not the right time for me to evaluate Algorand because I don't think we're in a fully fledged type of altcoin season yet. However, personally for me, what I'm focused on is just accumulating, holding, and just waiting. I'm more so focused on preparation as opposed to anticipating the exact moment in time, if that makes sense, because I will not know the exact moment in time algo really decides to pick up, or let alone the whole space overall. That is beyond my control. What can I control though? My preparation, just dollar cost averaging, holding, and just waiting. That's it. It's like, for instance, let's say I am practicing for a marathon, but then in a make-believe scenario, I do not know when I am going to be running a marathon. Wouldn't it be more logical for me to just prepare? So then let's say I do have the chance to run a marathon. At that point, I'll be prepared. It's not about predicting the exact moment in time I'm going to be doing that. It's more so just the preparation. So this is what I'm focusing on. But that's just the analogy that I would use when it comes to this. Look, some people like to tell me, why don't I pull up a price chart, draw some random triangles? Well, that just wouldn't really make much sense to me because I see some people out there, they pull up a price chart, draw a random triangle, and then what happens? In some cases, they say, oh, this is going to happen at this time. And in some cases, it doesn't happen at that time. And then they just keep adjusting the triangle bit by bit and say, oh, it's going to, just following this, oh, just a small correction here. What's the point? At that point, I'm just drawing. It looks cool because the price chart is moving up and down like this. Its graphics, look kind of cool. But what is that doing? If let's say I did that, do you think the market's going to care about what I draw on the price chart? I could draw Brock Lesnar on the price chart. It's not going to matter. I could draw, again, a random triangle falling wedge pattern. It's not going to care. What is that going to do? So then instead of doing that, I'd rather focus on the news, which, again, the news about chess when it comes to Algorand, I think it's pretty decent. I don't think it's the best, but I'd rather focus on stuff like that. Not to mention, I'd rather also take a look at kind of a different scenario when it comes to algo. It may be hypothetically at this price or this price, instead of like just taking a look at the short term, the price chart, which doesn't really do much in the grand scheme of things because I do not care what happens to algo next week or in the next 2 weeks. What I care about is what algo could maybe become during a fully fledged type of altcoin season. So whatever happens to algo next Tuesday, next Monday, and the next 2 Wednesdays, I could care less about that. I'm more so focused in a moment in time in which there is a fully fledged type of altcoin season. I just want to be prepared, and that's pretty much it, and that's what I'm doing. And feel free to subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I would greatly appreciate it. It's Willie the Captain, and I'll catch you all in the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.